All right, guys were in yesterday. Had a really good workout. Um, Anxious to turn the page and move forward to a big challenge with Richmond this week. Looking at the film, I'm really proud of the competitiveness and the fight that our team showed. I mean, it was evident from the first snap. That our guys were in it to find some way to try and win the ball game. We came up a little bit short. I do feel like we got kind of rocked there a little bit at first, and uh, we kind of there was this sense of everybody out there trying to make a play, and instead of trusting our training and focusing on execution, there was a whole bunch of guys out there that were really trying to find a way to make the impact, to turn the tide, and which led to us not executing as well as we've grown accustomed to or that we wanted to, which in turn made the situation a little bit worse. And then eventually settled down a little bit, and obviously came close to pulling off a pretty big comeback. But tremendous challenge this week. We come back home to play a team that was really close to being undefeated coming into this game. I mean, they're like 2 minutes away in the Villanova game away from being undefeated. This is a veteran football team coming into our place that's very well coached on both sides of the ball and in special teams. I mean, they've got 4 or 5 defensive linemen that would play for us, and they've got skill players and scheme, and we're gonna have to have a heck of a week of practice. Hopefully, we'll get some guys healthy to kind of be back to full strength there, because we're going to need it for this one.
When you went back and watched the film with the goal line, with the 3 times inside the red zone, anything stand out kind of on the rewatch that you thought kind of contributed to the struggles?
Yeah, we stunk. I mean, we jumped off sides on the 3-yard line. There's 2 times there was a little bit of time factor in there, but it's poor, and that's poor for everybody. You know what I mean? Like that's, you don't get down there 3 times and come away with nothing and not reevaluate and talk about and look at all aspects of it. So, we just from top to bottom wasn't very good.
With the jet sweep and inside the 10, you run it to the boundary. I know you analyze everything. Is it equally successful running to the short side of the field? Is it harder? I mean, because it seems like everything's bunched up there. Inside the 10, what do you think about it? In terms of when you look at it, it's an equally successful play running both sides?
I mean, it's been a lot more successful into the boundary over the years than it has been to the field. I mean, that's not. I mean, that's a stretch play. That's not the jet sweep. The Z comes in motion and we block stretch. So I mean, did you see us trying to run the ball up on the inside? Why do you think it was hard to run the ball on the inside? Because there's a lot of people in there, right? So you try and get the ball to the edge. But boundary field, I mean, that's one of a bunch of things that we didn't do very well down there, coaching-wise and execution-wise.
Justin, I don't know if you have any kind of update on Silas's situation, but that was the one spot on the offensive line where you really had a question mark coming into this year. How would you replace him if he can't go, and sliding Brock out there? How difficult is that for him to slide out to a tackle from an interior spot during the game?
Well, it was very difficult. It was a tough situation to put Brock in. We didn't have Parker Clements on the trip either, so he got hurt in practice last week. So that contributed to the issues. I don't know who's going to play right tackle. That's my answer. Both those guys, Parker and Silas, were out there yesterday. I hope that they continue to get healthy. We have a staff meeting tonight where I'll get an update on their status, and we'll try and develop a plan. But I don't have an answer for you. And yes, it made it difficult, but It's the way it is. Got to find a way to go.
I'm curious defensively. In the second half, only allowed less than 50 yards defensively. What were kind of the adjustments made? I know you mentioned them post game, and forced 2 turnovers, only allowed 3 points. Pretty impressive after the first half.
Yeah, settled down
Recording in
and
progress.
played a much better assignment football in the second half. Like a little bit less freewheeling and more doing what we're asking them to do. I did feel like they tried to take the air out of the ball a little bit in the second half. They were trying to get the game. And maybe Coach Brown would disagree with me. I don't know. That's just how I felt watching the game, that they were trying to take the air out of it a little bit in the second half. But much better execution, created turnovers, momentum plays to give us a chance.
You mentioned guys trying to do too much.
Recording stopped.
In terms of Chamari, it seemed like he was trying sometimes to, make a play and threw his body at the guy and missed a couple tackles that way. Does he need to kind of pick his spots better and rely more on form? Or I'm just, what did you see from him specifically?
Well, I mean, the one play on third down where he missed the tackle.
Recording in progress.
Shamari makes that tackle all the time, right? That's very out of character for him. And we expect him to make it because we've watched him make it 100 times, 200 times. So that's a little bit of a microcosm of our play there. Like it's just a little bit. I don't know if it's trying to do too much or what, but it's just not typical of what you see from him on that third down play.
Romo's had a couple short ones that he's missed, field goals. Do you look at that position more carefully this week, or is it something where you kind of want to stick with a guy and get him into a rhythm a little bit?
No, you're right, Andy. I mean, we'll continue to look at that too, and we've got to. We owe it to everybody on the team, at all positions. So, we'll continue to look at Will and see how he does, and hopefully Parker settles down and can trust his fundamentals and punch some of those shorter ones through. But we have to we have an obligation to the team to make sure we evaluate all that.
Is that something that you've been good on field goals in that range in practice?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, he's been pretty solid from what we've seen. It's just
With Richmond's quarterback.
I'm not really an expert on like the mechanics of it all and all that sort of stuff. But, all I have to go off of is what I've seen, and I've seen him make a whole bunch of them in practice.
Richmond's quarterback, Joe Mancuso, like 6'4", he can move. He led the team in rushing last year. How do they take advantage of his versatility, and do you like what you see from, not like, I guess, but are you impressed with what you see from him at quarterback?
Yeah, certainly. I like their entire team, first of all, I would say. When you watch your team, you can tell they're obviously very well coached. On the defensive side of the ball, they absolutely know what they're doing. They have an identity, they execute that identity, and they'll give you a wrinkle every week. And they play hard and they play fundamentally sound. And on the offensive side of the ball, to me, it's clear they have an identity too. And it starts with him. This is a big kid, from the best I can tell, that really throws the ball well. That, like I said, Villanova is a heck of a football team. And, they had them, like I said, within a couple minutes of knocking them off last week. And, but he's not just a stationary target. This is a big athletic kid that can move around and run the football a little bit. So, an accomplished passer. So, that's a difficult task to tackle. And there's a reason they've been successful. I've spent 2 years playing and 6 years coaching at that level. I get it, man. You get good players, guys that are together, and a good scheme, and you got a chance to do some special things.
What would you say? You said the defensive identity they have. What would you say?
Well, they're a 4 down quarters football team. It's where they start, and in my opinion, that they're led by their front four. I mean, that's some really good football players up front. Big, strong, ACC defensive linemen who are about to go play.
David Teal on Zoom.
Justin, you mentioned how well coached they are. You didn't play Chattanooga when you were at Memphis, but having worked in the same state, did you know Russ?
I didn't, or I don't. I know he did a good job there. That'd been a job that people on the outside, I would consider myself, always wondered why that they weren't better, because they had a great town. It seemed to us from the outside that they had support and access to athletes and all that sort of stuff. But he did a great job there, and obviously he's come back to Richmond. I believe he was the defensive coordinator when they won the national championship his first go around, if I'm not mistaken, and done a fantastic job in his second stint there.
And then Mike and Andy were asking about the red zone stuff earlier, but you had a 4th and 1 there in the second quarter at about the 20, 25. Is that a misread by Braxton or just poor block? What went wrong there?
No, we got penetration on the right tackle, which knocked our puller off, and kind of deteriorated. The play kind of deteriorated from there. If you watch the film, you can tell the right tackle gets knocked back into the left guard. Now all our tracks are off, and we got our butt whipped at the point of attack is what happened.
Mike Barber.
Justin, in that opener against Carolina, the defensive line was so disruptive, particularly Barno. How would you evaluate their play since, and specifically his play? And are opponents a little more aware of him right now?
I don't get the feeling that they're game planning around him. I've been pleased with what we've done. It's not been perfect on the defensive line, but we should be not just productive there, but we should be sound there. We've got guys that have played a lot, and you think about Garbett gets the strip sack in the game, and we've been pretty sound, pretty gap sound, not all the time, not as much as we want, but I think it should be a group of guys that play well every week.
Yeah, and I asked you a whole bunch in the preseason and I guess the first week about James Mitchell, the versatility, all the things he can do. When you lose a player like that, is it more complicated than just, okay, somebody has to play that spot? Do you have to kind of rethink some of your offensive plans because of how much maybe he was involved in?
Well, it's difficult because you don't have another one of those guys. I mean, and I think we are in pretty good shape at tight end. I think Nick and Drake we're very fortunate to have those guys behind James. If we didn't have those guys, it'd be, a little bit of a much scarier scenario. But the problem is you don't have, there are not very many guys like James, period. So, it changes how you think about that position a little bit, certainly.
Nathan.
Hey, Coach. Coach Shebest talked in the preseason about how Tavion had lost some confidence fielding and returning punts last year, but that appears to be a thing of the past. I was wondering what kind of difference you've noticed in Tavion in that regard this season, and maybe how has that confidence impacted his role as a playmaker at receiver as well?
Well, I hope it continues. It's the first thing I would say. I've talked a little bit about Tavion and how it's kind of an unfortunate situation with he plays as a true freshman and then has no off season when you make usually the biggest jump between your first and second year. Due to COVID, he's at home and he just had no off season like many people didn't, but he was a young player, a young developmental player that had no off season, which hurt him. And then, just never looked comfortable back there. But I feel like he's getting more comfortable. I think 15 spring practices, I think an entire fall camp, I think being in great physical condition has helped him be more confident in that role back there. And, he had a tough job last week because the punter kicked the ball short. Sometimes that's more difficult than guys that boom the ball, is guys that kick it short because there's traffic everywhere. And that guy's in charge of communicating with the punt return unit. So the punt return unit doesn't know where the ball is. The returner's job is to tell them where the ball is through pointing and communication. And he did a pretty good job of that with some short kicks. And he had one that was all the way across the field that was a pretty tough catch. I wish we could have maybe gotten in position to field the hop as opposed to catching it in the air. But certainly thus far, he appears to be much more comfortable than a year ago.
How about his role at receiver, though? What have you noticed out of him in terms of him turning into more of a playmaker at the receiver spot?
He just continues to get better and refine the position. I marveled at him as a freshman because he was a quarterback in high school, and he that doesn't always happen this way, but he never looked like a quarterback out there playing receiver. I mean, he just took to it like a duck to water. I mean, it was just almost immediately he has this innate understanding of space and what's going on. So he has I go back to, I think his conditioning level is so much better. It's giving him an opportunity to play at a much higher level. And as he continues to learn the nuances of the position, I anticipate that he'll continue to improve.
David Teal, do you have something else?
Yeah, Justin, for those of us not out there in the heat of the moment, it's easy to second guess, but even the analyst on television Saturday was wondering why Braxton didn't pull it a time or two on the zone read, especially on that second down on your last goal line situation. Did he perhaps misread a couple situations there?
Well, those analysts on TV, they know everything. No, I do not recall. I mean, certainly there's some decisions and some plays that Braxton, that we wish we had back. I don't remember a bunch of issues with zone read calls.
Anyone else for Coach?
Coach, following up on David's question with Braxton, what tweaks do you think he has to make moving forward to kind of better execute those plays, and how much of that is maybe kind of a mental kind of thing?
Well, I think it's on, again, I mean, I know it sounds familiar, but I think it's incumbent on all of us to continue to mold things, to give him an opportunity to have success, and so that he feels comfortable and is able to make good decisions, whether it's, in the RPO games, like there's some times when we've got to make better decisions, and we got to be able to get the ball out there. And then, to David's question, in the read game, off the top of my head, I don't remember that being an issue. But I just think we got to continue to evolve things so that we can make some more plays throwing the football. I mean, that's where I think he converted a 3rd and 24, basically all by himself, right? I mean, there's 3 guys right there, and he just takes a right-hand turn and runs around all of them, dives, and gets the first down. I mean, you can't coach that. But if you can take that and combine it with a little bit more efficiency in terms of operation, decision-making, throwing the football, I think you have something pretty special.
The big picture question, in your time as Hokies head coach, how do these games against in-state opponents, with the exception of UVA, in terms of exposure, what does that do for recruiting for you guys? How does that kind of maybe change and evolve over time for you?
Oh, I don't know that it does a whole lot, quite honestly.
Different talent pools, but
In terms of recruiting, I don't know. I mean, I think when you play big time games like we played in the first game of the year, that does things for recruiting. I wish it hadn't been on a Friday when all the kids are playing their high school games, but those are opportunities that influence recruiting.
Last one, Mike Barber, do you have another one?
Yeah, Justin, the ebbs and flows of the season, fans react strongly to losses against supposed rivals, non-conference games. But from a Coastal Division standpoint, you're in the same position you were a week ago. Do you try to translate that message to the team that, frustrating loss, but hey, the things that you're after are all right there, or is that not something you broach with them?
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're in the middle of this non-conference run. Yeah, the West Virginia game is different. It is. I get. Trust me, we understand that part of it. So I'm not diminishing the importance of playing and winning that game. I'm just saying we're in the middle of 4 non-conference games here that have no effect on the ACC, but they do have effect on your postseason recognition, right? Non-conference games are for postseason recognition, so they do affect bowl eligibility, and then if you're bowl eligible, your opportunities, where the bowls go, so on and so forth, all the way up the ladder that you all understand. So, I mean, we get that part of it too. So it was weird. We played a conference game, and you go put that in the closet, and you go focus on these 4 non-conference games, and we have this game that we have to find a way to, whoever's available, whoever's not available, you got to find a way for us to continue to improve, to give our team in the long run a chance to be the best team that we can be. And then we'll take a little break. Then we'll play one more, and then it's on. It's 8 straight conference games, and it's the gauntlet, the grinder, and we'll see where they go.
And I know you were traveling, so you probably didn't watch, but I'm curious if you took note of the Virginia-North Carolina score, just in terms of you guys played such a defensive banger with them, and then the Virginia-Carolina game was so the opposite.
No, I did get to see a little bit of it. Not a lot, but I mean, I was a little shocked, quite honestly, on both sides. I know that both those quarterbacks are playing at a high level, or have at times played at a really high level, but I was a little shocked to see just the pure volume of yards, given up, really by both sides.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Recording stopped.